you won't see in the world market because the oil companies, of course, don't want this on the market. It's just a wooden frame. It's got an auto switch on it right here, an automobile switch, which...
I'm going to get closer.
Okay, turns it off and on. I put a cover over it, a jar, to protect it. Now, it's compressed. The material in this is made of, one rod is made of 73 different elements. The other side is made of 74 elements. There's one additional element, and that's why one is negative and one is positive. The one builds up electrons. The neutrinos that strike the Earth 24 hours a day and other things striking the Earth, the combination of them causes electrons to build up in one of these rods, and it depletes them in the other side. Much like a solar panel works, very much like a solar panel. But a solar panel needs light 24 hours a day if you're going to use it 24 hours. Otherwise, it only works when the sun comes out. Now, this here, as you can see, very, very light. Very light. Has practically no weight to it. But there's plenty of energy there. Now, as I run this up the rod, you can see.
Let me get a little closer there. Okay.
These are Christmas tree lights. 110 volt Christmas tree
Let me get a good close-up of those lights. Let's see those lights again.
Okay.
All they are is what?
Just regular Christmas tree lights.
Yeah, but hold out your hand so I can see it a little bit better. The light bulbs. I want to see the light bulbs.
Okay.
Without them being lit.
Oh, without them being lit.
Yeah. Okay. Just hold them there for a second. And all they are is grouped together and a little tape holding the ends out, right?
Yeah, they're just grouped together here. There's 3 of them together.
Okay, so now what you're doing is just...
for the purposes of something bright so people can see.
So you're putting one wire on one rod and one on the other, is that correct?
One on the other. Okay. Just like negative and positive.
Now turn the rod sideways so we can see them individually. Okay. There we go.
Now, it's not a battery because you cannot light these with a battery. Now, and to show it's not a battery, anywhere you move it up and down the rod, the lights work. See? See, anywhere. Down here, oh yeah. The same. Anywhere you want to put them, they work. Now, there's no power buildup here. Now to show, let's take something a little bit bigger. This is a 25 watt bulb. 110, 25 watts. Now, let's see what happens when we put that on. Now, of course, it won't be as bright because this takes a lot of amperage, you know, and the wattage. This here, the watts on this thing here is only about, right now, about 18 watts only, and this is 25 watts.
Now, do the rods get hot?
No, the rods don't get hot. The light bulb is hot.
Yeah, because it's...
yeah, it gets hot. Of course, you can't see the heat there, but now I'll give you a good shot of the light here.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Now you need a very big battery to do that. If you want to do that with a battery, you know, that's to show there's no power here as far as storage power. It stores a certain amount of electrons because it builds up. Now, let's cover them. We're going to cover them up. So now no light can get to them. So that we can show they're not like a solar panel. Now let's turn the switch on. So the power is now going from the bottom terminals through the switch here to the top here.
Right, okay.
Now we use these 2 terminals on here because sometimes at the cave site we used to use this to charge the big battery. See? So that's why we put those terminals on there. Now let's black it out. See if we can still light it. See what I mean? You don't need light. So we're not getting it from the fluorescent lights here. We're not getting the power from the fluorescent lights.
Right.
Controller that's going to cause the power to come in from the wall into this whole situation, the electricity. All right, when he turns the power on, it's going to light this light bulb at a certain intensity. See, it's not all that real bright, but he's lighting the light bulb up with whatever power we need right now. Now what he's going to do, over here there's an amp meter. You notice right on the power controller there's a voltmeter, and on the amp meter we're getting what? 0.62. That's the amount of amps that we're getting. Drawing 0.62 amps. Now over here is the wave generator.
Magnetic wave generator.
Magnetic wave generator. And the magnetic wave generator is not really on now. And what he's going to do is, when he pushes a little switch over here, then the magnetic wave generator is getting excited. When the magnetic wave generator gets excited, you'll notice the light bulb will burn really bright. This is a 100-watt light bulb. It'll burn really, really bright. Now, what's happening is we're set up so that all the back EMF from this magnetic wave generator, like when you have a cycle, you get a spike, that spike is back EMF. Funny thing is, like you said, they've been trying to get rid of that spike for a long time. Pretty hilarious, isn't it? Anyway, so that spike back there, you get that spike every cycle. And so what he's doing is he's capturing all the energy from the spike as all of the atoms in this iron collapse. The electrons collapse in it as you're taking off the energy on and off. That's what a cycle is. As you're taking off the energy, it's collapsing, and all that back EMF is being captured in two capacitors, right?
That's correct.
And right in the capacitor, then he's able to take the energy from the capacitors, free energy in the collapsing of the spike, and put that into the light bulb. That means that if he could put that into the light bulb, you wouldn't need as much energy coming from the wall to still burn the light bulb, because you're capturing the energy from the magnetic field. Okay, now what Carlos is going to do to show to us that he's really able to do this, he's going to flip a switch over here, and then this is going to start charging the magnetic wave
coils,
generator,
the coils, the internal coils.
You might explain some of that, what the internal coils. So you got a coil, and then the electricity comes in. How does it take energy from the magnet?
Okay, well, we start to pulse the internal coils in the magnetic wave generator, and we have the split coil set up here pulsing the magnetic field in both directions so we don't magnetize the iron. We have also a secondary set of coils on the outside of the circumference of this unit to take advantage of the magnetic field being produced across the poles where the most strongest fields are going to be made. This also is going to give us kickbacks and extra power, but we're not using that right now. We're going to demonstrate the kickbacks just on the electrons in the iron atoms coming back and storing them into the capacitor to power the bulb. So
Okay, good.
when we turn it on, we're going to start to pulse the internal coils.
Okay, see, now we just turned it on. The light bulb got really bright. Our voltage didn't increase, but obviously our amperage did. Our amps went up to about 4.5, 4.4, 4.4, not about 4.5, I would say average. 4.5 amps. So now we're charging this, and we're getting back EMF, right?
Yeah, we're getting back EMF.
Now, we're getting back EMF now, but it's like we get one cycle, you know, a little bit of back EMF. The way we increase that back EMF, how do we do that,
Just
Carlos?
to bring up the cycles.
We had to make the cycles happen faster. So Carlos is going to do that now. He's going to bring the cycles together, and you're going to notice, as he does, the amperage is going to go from about 4.5 down, because it's going to take less power there, because these capacitors are going to be making up the power into that bulb. Carlos, go ahead and increase the frequency, and let's see what happens. Notice the amperage is coming down, it's dropping, the bulb is still staying bright. The voltage is not changing at all on the power source. So the amperage is dropping, bulb is still bright. Amperage is dropping, we're down to 2.7 from 4.5 to 2.7 amps already, bulb is still burning bright. Wonder if we can cut that in half. What's half of 4.5? 2.25? We might be able to make it before the brightness changes. Notice the brightness, we're 2.46, 2.3, still got the brightness, 2.26, 2.25. Cut that power in half. Nothing but back EMF. That's the energy coming from the electrons in the iron, right?
That's correct.
So the electrons in the iron itself, which are replenishing their energy from nature, are supplying the excess power to keep the bulb lit on 2 amps instead of 4.5 amps.
Right, because the coils are consuming the energy right now, and the idea is to get it to a point to where we do less work on the coil and get more kickbacks, and this is the direction that we're heading.
There you go.
You know, and there's a lot of different things that we could do to produce the same effect besides using electricity.
Right, but we're not going to tell them about Mark.
We're not going to.
All right, now, what we're going to do, though, is we're going to go over here. Mike, the cameraman, is going to take a picture of the scope there. And on the scope, we're going to let Carlos explain to us, show us graphically what's happening with this spike action here.
Okay, these are the waves of the 2 different coils, and, you know, they're on and off time. This is the duration of the energized coil. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you now the spikes that we're capturing, that we're storing in the capacitor. There is the spikes coming up. Okay, you can see it's a really high, probably 600 volts coming back. And so now the idea is to squeeze as many of these kickbacks into a 1-second time frame to give us this more back EMF and collect more energy out of the electrons in the iron.
For free.
For free. So here we'll bring up the frequency now. Still getting a good kickback, and we're collecting them now. We're starting to collect more and more.
Well, the amperage is dropping like crazy.
And until you reach the iron's core limit. And here we can squeeze more back EMFs.
Bulb is still burning bright.
And there we can...
Now all that is free. All those spikes there are
Yes,
free.
all that, it doesn't cost you anything.
It's all coming from God in the electrons making the exchange in the material of the iron.
Returning back to where God made it.
Yep.
Okay, we are disassociating the electrons, lining them up, and then as we turn the power off, they're collapsing and they're generating these spikes, which is also energy, and that's what the capacitors are collecting. And now the idea is to collect as many of them as we can in a given time frame to produce the...
So if you're putting the power in, all you're doing is using man's power to excite the materials to extract God's power from the materials themselves.
Yes.
So you're using man-made energy to then get free energy from the material themselves.
Yes.
So that's less man-made energy you need, the more free energy you get for the same job.
And that's...
which I will demonstrate in the demonstration. So we will get started here just shortly. We first wanted you to kind of look at just the machine, and we have a tachometer, we have an amp probe that is an RMS, and we also have a fluke meter that is an RMS fluke meter as well. And we're going to show you how fast the machine is running and how many amps it's drawing, and of course the return voltage after 1 hour's running. Alright, we're now taking the reading on the batteries, and you can see from the multimeter what the readings are. And this is we'll call this battery number 1. Okay, and we're going to look at battery number 2. This is the next one. Battery number 2. Okay, and now we're going to look at, we're going to start the process of the system up, and we will take a measurement on this in a little bit of time here. And we'll focus in on the scope. We're going to be looking at the scope here just shortly. Okay. I'm going to start the process of the system up right now, and we will get on with that. The opposite side over here. We're going to wait till this gets up to full speed. When it attains full speed here, then we're going to be looking, we're going to be putting some return voltage on here. scope. See if Walt can zoom in on this a little bit. We're going to get up to, right now we're at a 100 volts. 100 volts at 0, so we're looking at a little over 110 volts, peak to peak, almost 200 volts negative. I'm going to stretch it out a little bit at 10 milliseconds, and we're going to look on the scope here at something very interesting. I'm going to switch this from, right now on the menu, we're going to see this is in the DC scale mode right now, a DC sine wave. I'm going to switch it over to an AC sine wave. You're going to see that it doesn't change, not one iota. There's the AC sine wave. I'm going to peek it back up over into the DC mode. And you can see that this waveform here has not changed. I'm going to step over to the, this is a TAC, Pioneer, Model 36. We're going to take a measurement, and I don't know if you can zoom in on that or not. We're going to take a measurement right there on it. And I'm going to let you see that, if I can get it adjusted just right, on the PhotoTAC eye here. The reading is 5,000 RPMs. We're going at 5,000 RPMs. I'm going to put the amp probe on over here, and I'll let him zoom in on the amp probe, so you can see what the amp load is, and right now at 200 amps.
Can you turn it? It's got a glare.
I'm gonna calibrate, make sure it's at 0. Let's see if you can see it there. It's at 0.0.
Hang on a second.
And then I'm gonna put it over here. And then I'll have to angle it to see if you can get the shot. Let's see if you can pick it up. Can you see that? It's at
there
10,
you go.
10.6, 10.7, 10.10, 10.7, 10.8, and it fluctuates between 10 and 9. The system is just kind of setting and running now, and it's really running nicely. We have a return voltage that is going back into the batteries. We will be coming back in about approximately 1 hour to check the battery voltage. So we're going to let the machine stay on. The machine will be running now for 1 hour. 30 minutes into the run, and we just want to show you that there's only one line cord over here going from the scope. There's only one line cord that's feeding over to the scope, and there's not anything else. There's not anything else here. Just this one line cord that comes over to the scope so we can make our readings. And we want to show you that so you'll know that there's not any hidden wires or anything under the table or anything like that. Now we want to go over here, look at the wheels back over, back here toward this area, and Walt's going to move he's going to move the camera so we can get a shot off the side here so you can see all four of the coils here on the unit. Okay, now we're looking at the end shot where you can see most of the coils themselves, and you're also probably seeing this little orange battery over here. By the way, this battery will no longer be in the picture because we can take the battery voltage that we're using here to power the eye and come right off of the 12-volt battery here. Otherwise, we don't have to have another little battery here. We can just eliminate that. And when we get the box that's coming in, we're going to have a control panel on there, and this battery will not be in the picture. Yet the machine will still be able to do everything that you're seeing right now. Now, as you're looking back down at an angle right here, you can see these things turning. We are spinning at 5,000 RPMs. You have to take my word for it because we cannot hold the tack at set level whenever we make the measurement, and it is peaking at 5,000 RPMs. It's moving quite fast. We are capable of driving this with very little bit of input power, and as you'll see at the end of the 30 minutes, in approximately about 30 minutes, we're going to take some more readings. You can see the waveform on the scope. You can get that in the picture. Can you get it from there, Walt, or are you going to have to move the camera?
I might be able to get it from here.
All right.
I can barely get it.
The waveform hasn't changed any. And the interesting thing is, again, is that no matter if it's in DC or AC, the waveform is the same. And that's pretty interesting in the fact that it's able to power the bulb over here, and we're running at 5,000 RPMs, and we don't even have any work on this, on the wheel itself. We're not using anything to work the wheel, and we're consistently running at an approximated voltage. And what we're going to do, after about the next 32 minutes, we're going to go ahead and turn this off, and we'll make a measurement.
Alright, it's 9:45, and if you notice, it's still running. And we'll get over here, and you can tell the scope is still the same. Signal still hasn't changed any. I'll give you a real good close-up. Still lighting, and we're going to probably run it for a few more minutes here, and then we're going to shut it off.
We've been running for 1 hour here, and you can see the scope. It is exactly the same as before. In fact, the voltage here is, and you can look at the scope here, it's 120 positive, 120 volts positive, and it's going to 165 volts negative. In 1 hour's run, this has not changed. You can see the bulb lit brightly over here. You can also see the output of the system feeding back over to the batteries. We can still look, and I'm going to go over here to the RPM tach, and we're going to monitor the speed again after 1 hour's run. And we are looking at a little over 5,000 RPMs. That's what we're looking at. Right there, 5,000 RPMs, a little over. And then we're sitting here looking at the amp probe. I've got the amp probe on here and monitoring the system back, and we're reading about 10.2. And let's see if I can get that in there. You can see it fluctuating a little bit. It's getting 9.9. Sometimes it reads 9.2. So with a 0.2 on the 0, if you look at the 0.2, it's got about it'll say 0.0. So we're pretty much back where we were. We actually are running exactly where we left off. And now we're going to go back and monitor the battery voltage, and then we're going to kill the system, and we're going to watch and see if the batteries themselves build back up to a certain voltage. So we'll go back and through. Right now we'll take a voltage reading, and we are reading right now, looking at the meter, we're reading 24, looks like 50, 2450, 2549, 2950. And I'm going to go ahead and start taking the system down so we can monitor the battery and see what the battery comes back up to. I'm going to go ahead and kill this. This is what I'll do. That takes that offline. And immediately, we're beginning to see the meter itself going up. We're at 24.87, 24.89, 24.90, and that's constantly going. We're going to make sure that stays on there. So after 1 hour's run, we're going to be looking at the voltage to the batteries, 24.95. And if you notice this immediately, as soon as I turned this off, and we went back and started monitoring the input to the batteries, it's climbing. 24.98, 99. 25 volts right now. At 25 volts back on the batteries. And that is extremely interesting. We got 2501 and it's still climbing. 2502. And I guess what we need to do is just leave this on here and let this just keep on climbing. And I'm going to take it off for a minute so I can just hook it up so we can keep reading it. So right now we're at 2504. any climbing. We'll probably let this run or lapse off for a little bit of time so you can get a very good idea of what the voltage is doing in this process. If you notice the bulb, the whole time the bulb was steady, it never did change, not one time. The system is continually here climbing back up again for the full voltage reading. And we're seeing on the Fluke DVM meter a 25.22 voltage. We started off at 25.66, so 25.22. We use 440 millivolts approximately. Actually, I think if we let this stay a little longer, it'll probably get up a little higher than that. So for an hour's runs used, we've used 440 millivolts. And I think that's pretty phenomenal. I hope you guys enjoyed that demo, and we'll be sending this off right away, and you have a good day, and get back to me, let me know what you think, and we'll talk to you later. God bless.
All right, you guys have a good one. Bye-bye.